Board games, board games, it's what I'm talking about. Board games, board games, I'm not gonna shout. Today I just wanna mention that the board game designing is a thing for everyone. I think you build up skills and it's also quite fun. I think that if you have time and energy, then it is something that you should do, even if only a little bit. And you absolutely don't have to try to be a professional for it to benefit your life. It's holistic, it benefits it all. Board game design is for everyone, it's what I'm talking about. Board game design is for everyone. I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez and I'm talking about, and this is Bezzy Beats and Briefer Bladder. I'm talking about how board game design is for everyone. And to give you a synopsis of what I'm talking about, I am basically saying here that in the same way that you might not want to be a professional writer, you might not want to be a professional poet or a musician, but if you do a wee bit of those things, then maybe you write a letter to a friend. Writing can benefit you. Maybe you sometimes write a short story just on Twitter to get your creative juices flowing. Sometimes you might write a poem just as an expression of love or as an expression of you. These things don't have to be the major part of you. It doesn't have to be, I am a board game designer. It can be like, yeah, I am a board game designer. I'm a writer. I'm a musician. I'm a human. I'm a multifaceted being, and I do all these things. And just like you can do all those other things, you can do a wee bit of board game design. So, yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to talk about how, just to give a very quick recap of something I've said many times before, if you want to be a commercial success, if you want to do a profession, you really have to think about the marketing. The marketing, the production, like the distribution, the logistics, these things are way more important than the design of the game. Sure, you kind of need a good game to set it off, but there's still a massive multiplicative factor, if that makes sense. But I am going to be talking about the design here, just design for design's sake. And I'm just seeing that my lighting isn't the best. Let me see if I can move it round and maybe that's marginally better. Yeah, that seems a wee bit better. Before we start off, as usual, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So, firstly, Nathan For You, that's a Canadian show that I watched from Comedy Central. I guess it's American, but the star is Canadian. The premise is they graduated from a business school with really good grades, and then they give these business owners weird advice. Like on the first show, they suggest to an ice cream parlor, hey, how about making a poop-flavored ice cream, which they do kind of like as a stunt, as a publicity stunt, and then they do all these other things. And then I've watched like up to pretty much the end of season 4, and it gets really into the aspects of lying and what is the nature of truth and what is the nature of deceit. This is a really interesting show. I would absolutely recommend it. Having food in the fridge was a highlight. Mushrooms, I just love mushrooms on anything. Recent achievements include washing my dishes, giving myself space to relax, and unpacking from Dragonmeet. The one lesson that I had yesterday is that most people are illogical. For example, some people playing just one, and myself and another commenter mentioned, yeah, the way that these scoring works, you should never really want to give a good guess. Your scoring, it doesn't quite incentivize what you think it is, but Some people don't think things through mathematically, and that's just a reminder again that people are different. A skill that you continue to develop whilst making board games. And a quick hello to Alex, who has already seen this talk. So yeah, I guess now you're going to see if it's exactly the same as last time or it's in a new format. But I hope you're generally well. And I am going to, if you've got any recent highlights, feel free to share. Otherwise, I'm going to go on with the talk and then do questions and stuff at the end and turn it over to you. So, sorry about this. So firstly, as I said at the start, commercial success is marketing, and I'm just going to be talking about design. And hello, Jess. I hope that you're having a good time, and I'm just doing a bit of a lecture. It's going to be a bit less interactive than usual today. So yes, game design is for everyone. I'm going to talk about the skills that you develop, the joy of game design, and a tiny bit about how to get started and some of the applications. So what are some of the skills that you learn when you're making a game? Well, firstly, you are giving feedback in a compassionate way. Myself, I'm very good at just going in there and saying and hearing the negative parts of the game. That's what's useful to me. I want my game to be as good as possible. I want other people to tell me all the negatives. But most people aren't like that. Now, some people come, and most people, once they've been there, once they are actually focused on making a game the best it can possibly be, they are doing that. But then again, you need to remember, who are they making this game for? I played a game on Friday. That would be terrible. Not terrible is an overstatement, but it wouldn't be so good the second time you play it. But the thing is that this game was being designed for educational purposes. This game was being designed for a classroom. It was someone who said, hey, I'm teaching conspiracy theory. I have to think about what they're trying to do with this game. Someone else a while back came along and had a game that they were working on for years and years and years, and they hadn't showed it to anyone. And we were trying to be very gentle and trying to explain to them that, yeah, the game didn't work, but their ideas, they had enough ideas for 2 different games and they could split it up. But they were so against making a fundamental change, having done it for so many years. And so, again, you have to be compassionate and think about what the person wants to hear. It's not about treat others as you'd like to be treated. That's a terrible rule. Treat others with respect and think about how they'd like to be treated. That's it. Game design, it encourages you to take feedback, remembering that your projects are different to you. You are not your past actions. You're not what you've done. You're not what you've made. You're not what you've drawn. You are everything, past, present, future, but mainly the present and the future. Sure, the past kind of trickles in, but don't be beholden to the past. I think that it's really important to solicit feedback and negotiate at the discussions. And yeah, I think that just talking about what is going on, like when a person is giving all these ideas that don't even apply to your game, do you want to keep them there? Do you want to keep listening to that? Or is it not only a waste of your time, but also a waste of their time and their energy? They might be getting their hopes up. They might be working on this design, and what you can say, what I sometimes say is, thank you very much for your energy. Thank you for that. That sounds really cool, but that's not quite the game that I'm working on. Sometimes if it's totally different, I might even say, if you want to work on that game, then you go ahead and make that, because I am up in the end making the game that I want to make. I should be listening to all the feedback, but as a designer, it's up to me to curate, to listen, to decide which feedback do I listen to, which feedback do I not listen to. And again, listen. It's not about discussion. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to say, oh, I'm not doing that. You don't have to explain why this card is actually fine and balanced in your game. That doesn't matter. What matters is what these people are willing to tell you, and listening to them. And I remember one time when someone I'm not going to name names, but they just heard that one of their things didn't work, and they said, well, actually, if you did this and this and this, then you could have countered it, but you weren't aware of it, but this is actually balanced. And then I was thinking in my mind, oh my gosh, unnamed person, this is your time to have the benefits of their inputs. They are giving the energy, they are giving their time and energy to give you the input. Why are you getting all defensive? If you want to keep that card, it's not like they're going to come back in 10 years' time and say, why did you keep that card? If there's, just say thank you very much and what did you think? If you need to cut it short. And then, but it's so easy to get defensive. It's so easy to keep that separate, to keep that connection between you and your thing and feel like your creation, it's flawed, so therefore you're a flawed person. And that's something that it takes time, it takes effort, it takes mentally rewiring your brain to remember that you are not your creation. And so don't get defensive, it's all good. Thinking a wee bit about empathy. So, and good morning, Hexy Beast. Good morning, Jonathan. It is lovely to see you. And yes, I'm not going to bring up all the comments, but I love that you say treating others as you'd like is a silly thing to say. Yes, everyone is different, and some people want a bit more. Well, Jess was kidding about the abuse, but for sure. And morning, Bones, and morning, Federico, and I hope that you're generally well. Alex says, sat through a fair share of feedback on Saturday. It was really interesting to see different people's reactions to feedback. And thank you again, Federico. So, yes, you have to, when it comes to feedback, you have to build this model of not only where is it coming from, but actually how does it apply to you, if that makes sense. So it's really important to keep that separation. Now, moving on to empathy, building a mental model of people. This applies to any game that you build that isn't just for you. If I want to make a game that I'm able to print even 10 copies of, then I've got to at least have in my mind, okay, at least 10 people will like this enough to buy it, and then they'll have enough friends to play it with. And obviously it's like when, like, games are kind of more profitable when it's like 1,000, but with the basic bargain bags, yeah, sure, a couple of hundred is a fine thing, but fundamentally, you need to be empathizing with your target audience, thinking, what will they do? How will they play with this? Building up that mental model in your mind, because as I'll say later, playtesting in your mind is a real thing. Playtesting isn't just with other people in real life. Of course, that's better. Of course, that's more useful. You get the real data. But while I'm cycling, sometimes I'm thinking, oh, what would people do in that situation? Okay, what would a mathematically perfect person, like according to mathematical game theory, of course, people don't behave completely rationally, but how would that person behave? How would this person who's just trying to do the craziest thing behave? Would that mess up the game? How would this, and trying to build up a mental model of a few different facets of possibilities of human behavior, and then when you play it, you see if that matches reality. And this sort of building up a mental model of humanity is incredibly useful. And of course, when it comes to playing in reality, you don't want to have to ask all your questions at the end. Read the body language. That's a massively useful skill. I have definitely gotten better at, even if slightly better, day to day thinking, how is this person reacting to this? How is that other person reacting to this? Because I understand a bit more about their body language. And the last couple of things I will say is, firstly, you learn patience. You learn that everything can be iterated on. Learn to enjoy the process. Sometimes games don't work out. Sometimes you will have to abandon things, and that's okay. You can learn to enjoy it. Learn to appreciate the skills that you developed during the process, whether or not you ever get to that destination of having this game on a shelf of loads of shops. I mean, personally, I've got to admit, like, for some games, like, the destination is different. I've got this idea in my mind for a game that I'll probably make like 10 copies of, and I'll give 9 of them to one person as a birthday present. Maybe it should be like 5, I don't know, 3, maybe even 3, I don't know. But it's like a bespoke reskinning of one of my own games. It might be a game about quickly grabbing McCalls that are totally different whilst watching out for people who are not McCall. Anyway, the point is that you think about that, and even if I don't actually make this game, even if it doesn't result in McCall enjoying it, even if I don't get to where I want with that game, I'll still learn that, hey, I enjoyed the process of pondering it, of analysing the photos that should go into there and doing all that stuff. And even if whatever game that I'm prototyping, whether it stops after the first playtest or the 10th playtest or whatever, or whether I shoot it down before I even finish playtesting it in my mind, enjoy that process. And of course, along the way, you do have to learn a lot of alternate solutions. Federico says, iteration and patience is the hardest part. Difficult for when you reach times when destination is not clear, let alone not reaching it. Try to enjoy the process, but it is hard. Yes, and these are things that you practice makes for improvement. As you practice more and more, as you do more and more iteration, then you will learn that it's something that can be applied to anything in life. You can iterate on your cleaning abilities, you can iterate on your organizational abilities, you can iterate on business, on your writing, on everything. Yes, it is a very personal game. Quickly grabbing the calls. Let me move to the next thing. Other skills. Writing clearer instructions. As you write rules, quite often you will have to write rules maybe for your self-publishing, maybe it's for giving to a potential publisher, maybe it's just for teaching the game for your playtesters. But you learn to be clearer. You learn to be to give better instructions in general. Understanding systems. This is such an important thing. You understand the ramifications of things. You understand how things incentivize stuff, and then you learn about that. I think that by designing games, I'm not saying that you become the best game player, but you definitely improve. You definitely better understand how these things are giving you incentives and rewards and punishments. And let's talk about positive and negative feedback loops, because positive feedback loops, for those who don't know, is something that exacerbates the given situation. So if there's a separation, let's say, between rich and poor, I mean, the current economy is actually, capitalism is kind of a positive feedback loop, because as you get more money, you have more money to invest, so you're likely to get richer and richer. But then if you're below a certain line, you aren't able, it's like, okay, you can't afford to buy shoes that last multiple years. You've got to buy the cheapest shoes. And so those shoes that last maybe 1 year as opposed to 5 years might be half the price, but you'll have to keep buying them. So actually there, it's like even a greater punishment. And so the economy, capital, it kind of, without doing some welfare benefits, without having some, like, tax is a negative feedback loop. But there have to be more negative feedback loops, if I may get political for just a moment, in order to bring the global civilization into greater balance, because otherwise we've got this massive disparity that continues to grow and grow until we can't even see things. Literally, you can't see where my hands are. But yeah, it gives you a better understanding of systems, not just within games, but within everything. And yeah, the final thing is that it does help build confidence. As you iterate, as you realize that, hey, I can improve on things, I can keep getting better, that does make you more confident. Pardon me. So yes, those are some great skills that I believe that you could pick up by spending a wee bit of time doing game design. Now, is it a fun thing to do? Yes, in my opinion, absolutely. I'm going to say that a sense of purpose is something that game design can give you. I think that if you are doing there have been times in my life when I have been incredibly depressed, and having some projects can give you a sense of purpose. If you're maybe not, if you're not working, or you're not, at all energized or interested about your work, or you're not feeling any relationships or anything, or you don't have any sense of purpose, sometimes it can give you a sense of purpose. I asked on Facebook and Twitter, hey, has game design helped you? I think out of maybe like 30, 40 people, 2 of the people said, not really, it hasn't. Some people said, yes, absolutely. A couple of people said, everything that I do in life benefits me in some way, and I really appreciate that, which is a fantastic way to look at it. And I think that it's worth just trying as many things as you can, pushing your boundaries. I mean, I would not want to go extreme rock climbing, but, maybe I should push my boundaries a wee bit. But at the same time, when you're, what am I doing? It's quite a safe thing to do, making a game, imagining that, making it, iterating it. Yes, there's something to, you're putting yourself out there because you're making a creative thing, and then you're asking people what they think of it. But it gives you something to keep going with. There is a real achievement in making this thing, making it physical, putting it in front of someone and saying, this physical thing would not exist had I not pondered it. You make connections, you make friends, even if not friends, at least some loose connections, because when you're playtesting, you're always going to be playtesting with other people. Even if it's a solo game, you should get other people to playtest it and watch them, and then you build up these connections, and then maybe that leads to friendship, or at least it leads to acquaintances. But there is definitely the connection, and then there is a bit of enjoyment and pride at watching folk play your game, even if it's like, sure, at the start, it might be that it's terrible, but very soon, there will be a little bit of joy to be had. And there's, wow, this would not be happening. These people would not be doing this thing if it were not for me. And that is a massive thing. And yes, exactly, Jess. I am trying to inspire everyone to be a game designer. I'm not saying that this should be your life's purpose. What I am saying is that this should be something that, in the same way, sometimes make a song, sometimes write a short story, just do everything. Jess says, Bez is happier now. She's very committed to game designing. I've been a game... Oh, I never actually mentioned who I am. I am Bez. I'm best known for Yogi. They're far away. I do have some copies of my latest game to hand, which is a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. But yes, now that I'm not only committed, but I'm actually managing to do it, that I'm seeing it become a reality, I am definitely happier. And yes, red is a thing. Alex says maybe try bouldering. That is a thing that I've tried. Federico says you definitely benefit, and it is worth it, but it can be hard and uncomfortable on the short term, 100%. I think people should design games for themselves, just like people do watercolor painting to be creative, 100%. This is what I'm trying to get at. Thank you for your comment. Hexy Beast says, I have a few designs that kind of need an IP, an intellectual property for those who don't know. So that might be, I'm making this game and actually fits in with the Star Wars theme, or it fits in with McDonald's burgers. I don't know, or it fits in with Filippo Berio olive oil. It has to be this specific type of olive oil. My game is up. But whatever that, normally it's about a book or a song, or you need something to do with that. But Hexy Beast says, I'm kind of afraid to show them before that point. And to be honest, if I was a better artist, I would probably theme them myself. I will get to that in a re-ask that question, because there's an associated question of getting it out there. And I will just say that at the start, when you're playtesting with friends, feel free to use copyrighted images, as long as you're just doing it for your personal use, as long as once it gets to the point of a publisher, you use royalty-free images. And remember, the first editions of Magic the Gathering had like Calvin and Hobbes and all sorts of royalty copyrighted images, because Richard Garfield didn't have the artistic talent. I mean, I've not seen any of Richard's drawings, but I don't think they're a particularly good illustrator. So just, grab some other images and just do them. So, yes, watching people play your thing is fantastic. And the other joy is a creative outlet. I think that having a creative outlet of, hey, this is something that I made, check me out, and hey, I'm really frustrated with this thing. Sometimes you can express that by scribbling lots of black lines, or writing a song about how angry you are, or writing a poetry about, do only feel like nothing is real when you start to descend within the corporate spiel, the only going reel of mindless orders, barks on a whim, dirty deeds are done, and lies are spun into a web above your head, and then you better run before you're done, or you'll find that it's over before it started. And that's just a few lines that I kind of came up with ages ago. And that feels like something that I've made, a creative outlet. I've written something. Sometimes I make a story, and even if I'm playing a story game, having that as a creative outlet, or dancing, or anything. But a game is just another form of that. Sometimes it's energizing. If I saw that to lots of folk who talked about how one person made a game based on medicine from I think it was 17th century or 7th century. It was ages ago. Anyway, so they made a game based on historical medicine, and they are studying to be a doctor, and doing the research for the game energized them to learn, to be more in touch. So if there's something that you're like, oh, I really like architecture, but I'm a bit tired of it, I don't know where my passion's gone. I don't know, maybe you can make a game about it, and if this is like a big part of your life, and once you've made a game, maybe it will energize you. I don't know, it's a possibility. But that is some of the joys that you can have whilst playing a game. Thank you very much, Jess. I appreciate that. Was what's called humor me. I don't get that. Sorry. But let's talk about the applications and uses of game design. Now, game design, sure, it can be something that makes money. Someone who says there's no money to be made in game design is making an overstatement. There's not a lot of money to be made. It's not the easiest profession. There's a lot of risk in it. And I wouldn't advise it to anyone who's not so passionate that they are basically like, yes, game designing is the thing that I want to spend like 90% of my thoughts upon. If that is you, if you want to spend like 90% of your waking hours thinking about games, then yeah, sure, go and make games and try to be a professional, because clearly you're not going to be happy if you were doing anything else. Like if I was to be working in a cafe, I could be somewhat happy, but I wouldn't be as happy as if I was able to spend all my time just thinking about games and stuff. But it's not all about that. It's not all about mass production and getting thousands and thousands of copies of your games made. sometimes there can be other uses, even outside of making an actual game. It's not even just about making a game as a statement of love or an expression of... Actually, let me start off with house ruling. Let me start off with every game is made for a general broad audience. Okay, there might be 0.0, but as a not so broad generalization, like the vast majority of games are made for a really broad audience. That means that it's unlikely to be perfect for you. It's unlikely to be perfect for your group. It's likely, in fact, that there will be some parts that are maybe slightly worse for you, but are better for the overall audience, if you know what I mean. As you learn game design, you will start to appreciate this. You will start to understand, hey, we could tweak this. Like the just one house ruling that I mentioned at the start of this thing in Booked, where they mentioned, okay, we're giving 1 point for a nice clue, but only if it's a correct guess, and if it's a unique clue, and 3 points for a correct guess, and -2 points for a wrong guess. Well, that incentivizes me to not want to guess. Whereas if it had been 1 point, if they'd thought about it a bit more, like, I mean, to be fair, it worked for their group, so great for them. But I guess ultimately they knew design enough. Actually, that might be a good example of house ruling, because even though you could argue it wouldn't work for me, it wouldn't work for Alex, it wouldn't work for someone else in that discussion, but it works for their group. So good on them. Like, doing these kinds of house rulings, if it works for you, then great. Understand the ramifications. Don't be saying, oh, this is a terrible game because we played it 1 round instead of 3 and it's uninteresting. Like, if you are, like, at least if you're going to review a game, you should play it at least once. And I'm still smarting from the time that someone reviewed some of my games without playing them. That was annoying. But anyway, that to the side. And my point is that you understand the ramifications. You understand, hey, this is likely to be so long. As you develop a skill, you understand, okay, this is what the second round might add to the game. This is what the third round might add to the game. Okay, I can see that. Okay, now, do I want to extend the game? Do I want to shorten the game? And people have been talking about this, asking, hey, is there a variant to play multiple games and add up the points? And I've suggested, well, you could do this. I've not tested it, and I just like it to be a quick thing. But if you want to do that, if it's right for you, then go ahead. Now, that's a variant that I've suggested, but it's impossible for me to suggest a variant for everyone that fits everyone perfectly. And so if you want to take Yogi, and you're like, hey, these 4 cards in this game are a bit too difficult. Or if you want to say, hey, this game is just, I want it to be escalating faster. Maybe you want to draw 2 cards at a time because you're just like, hey, there's just not enough going on in a turn. I want people to draw 2 cards. Whatever you want to do, you will understand your group better than a stranger who's never met you. And that's just always the way. Oh, the game about ancient medicine. No, it was not called Humor Me. Balancing the 4 humors of the body. And Jess is off to get a massage. Well, enjoy and have a good time. But talking about other applications and uses, an expression of love. If you're making a game, it doesn't have to be perfect. I remember this one game that was made as a birthday present to someone who was not me. It had tiny little models of the friends and a tiny little bottle of Buckfast and going along, and it was a roll and move game. The actual game wasn't very good, but there were cards that were callbacks to things that had happened in real life. It was the ultimate in-joke game. You couldn't play it with if you and I played it, it wouldn't be that exciting a game. We wouldn't get all the jokes. We wouldn't recognize the people. But this kind of thing, where it's, hey, this is a game about you. In the same way that I've written a song about Jess, and I've written songs about specific people. I wrote a song about Jude Dodd on Saturday morning, and then I sang it to Jude. And that was a fun little way to express, I don't know what to call it. Love in the form of Jude was maybe admiration, showing that they've got some relevance in my life, I guess. And in the same way, like, make a game, it takes time, and so it shows that this person really means something to you. That is something really lovely. That's, I think, that more people should be doing. And yeah, it depends how people feel about points, says Alex. Yes. You can also express yourself by making games. Again, it doesn't have to be a big mass production. But when I made this game, a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips, I'm not saying everything is done in exactly the way I would like it. Of course, I'm constrained by my abilities. I'm constrained by the time I spent. I'm constrained by the physical limitations. I'm constrained by the fact that 54 cards is a really price-efficient number of cards to have. Otherwise, I might have had, like, I don't know, another 5 turnips and made it for 4 players. That would have been nice. I would have gone up to 59 cards. But it expresses me. I drew these turnips. Check my turnips out. I drew the creatures, and I don't want to open up that one just now. But yeah, it's like, it feels like you have done something and you have expressed yourself. You can express yourself through the illustrations or whatever, but also there's something in the mechanisms. There's something about the symbology of these things. Like something about the naming of the game. I mean, how many people would come up with that name for a game? How many people would run with the turnips in the way that I did? I mean, would people translate the eyes? Like, the illustration in this particular game and actually in both of my Bessie bargain bags, the illustrations and the gameplay are intrinsically intertwined. But if I look at In a Bind going back, or even Yogi, which is none of my illustrations, I still feel like that's an expression of me, because the rules and the way it's presented and the instructions on each card was something that I came up with, and someone else would probably come up with something like, I don't know, 50%, 40% the same if they just read the back of the box and had to reconstruct a game. But that 50% or whatever it is, that's personal to me. That feels like a real, this is me, and that's a lovely thing, and I enjoy that. And Jess asks to hear the name of the game again. It is a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate you saying these things. And is there a uniqueness scale? Yeah, I guess how many axes are you unique on, but let's not go there. The last application I want to say for game design is designing activities at the beach. If you're at the beach, or let's say you're somewhere and there's no games to play, but there's a bunch of stones, or you'll maybe have an idea of what's fun, because games aren't just about scoring points. Games are about rules. Games are fundamentally about agency. Games are about choosing to obey particular rules that you don't have to. I mean, you could consider there's a rule that I shouldn't run out there and jump off the balcony. Now, that's got a real life ramification. If I were to do that, I would definitely injure myself. I might die. I don't know. I don't know the odds. It's not worth thinking about. But the point is that when you're playing a game, these rules have no effect on the outside of your life. frankly, in Carcassonne, if I wanted to put 2 tiles down, it's not it's just a jerk. It's just like I'm not playing the game. At the point where I say, okay, let's say I'm playing in a bind and I say, okay, I'm not choosing to do the thing. If I cheat in a game, that means I'm not playing the game. Because once you start cheating, essentially you're no longer choosing to obey the game. So it's like you're playing a different game, which is how can I fool other people into thinking that I'm playing the game because I'm pretending to play the game, but I'm not really playing the game. Anyway, aside from that philosophical tangent, designing activities at the beach is just designing activities. This is just something that could be lovely. And there we go. What if you're playing cheat? Well, the thing about cheat is you're never cheating. You're lying, you're bluffing, but within very specific parameters. You're following the rules of the game of how you can cheat. You cannot cheat and cheat, because if you lie, that's not cheating. That's the thing. Like in Cheating Moth, a game that's even more woolly around the edges. If I started, I'm trying to think of an example of how I could cheat in Cheating Moth. That's a lot more open to cheat. That's hard. Okay, cheat or bluff or bull crap or whatever it's called. You put down cards and you can cheat about what's on those cards because they're face down. Some rule sets you can cheat about the number you placed. But in that game, if I just dropped the cards onto my lap and then let them scatter onto the floor, that would be truly cheating at that point. But as long as you're just lying, that is not cheating. And I hope that makes sense, the difference. Just doing a stretchy time, stretching left to right, stretchy time. Okay. Now, final section, I wanted to talk about how can we design a game. Yes, absolutely. I think that if you were to just drop cards and get rid of them that way, unless that's been pre-agreed, that would be cheating. So, how do you make a game? Hopefully I've inspired you, I've encouraged you to try it, to give a go of it. Coming up with a game and just saying, okay, I'm going to make a game. That's a big blank open page. Have something to guide you. Something, maybe it's a name. So maybe you think of the name of your game and your game is Tower Turrets. Okay, that sounds like it's a tower defense game. Maybe it's very militaristic. Do you want to make that? Okay, let's go for something really quickly here. Okay, a game drawing drawers. Okay, this is an interesting game. Okay, drawing drawers. So maybe you're drawing drawers, like the drawers that you pull, and then you need to draw specific drawers or something. I don't know. Or maybe you're also drawing like underwear. But once you come up with a name, it can give you some inspiration. For example, Couple, one of the games for the L deck, I came up with that name once I'd gotten the Wibble, Phrasal, Fable, once alphabetical, once that had been established, I was like, okay, what else can there be? How about Couple? That would be a good name for a game. Well, then it's got to be 2-player, it's got to be cooperative, I guess you're helping each other make words, and everything was about that game. Maybe you think about the components. Maybe you think about, okay, there's specifically this many cards because this many cards is really cheap. Maybe you think about the mechanisms. Maybe you think about, okay, I want there to be cards where you're balancing cards on you. Or maybe you think about the mechanism of physically drawing. Maybe you're thinking about something to do with some drafting mechanism. Whatever it is. Maybe you're thinking about the overall experience, or one cool moment, or one cool card, or even the front cover. There's someone I know. Ryan Lockhart, designer of Above and Below and some other lovely games, where Ryan starts off with, this is the front cover of the box. Okay, I'm going to use that as my guidance. I'm going to use that as my North Star. And so that is really important. And hello, Joanne, I hope you're generally well. I'm just talking about how to make a game, hopefully inspiring people to make a game. And so, like, whatever you've got as your inspiration, whatever you've got as your guidance, get on with it and use that to move you forward. It doesn't mean that you always have to be beholden to it. So if along the way you realize, hey, wait a minute, that one cool card that I thought was a really cool card, actually, that doesn't work in the game. Or that one, like Gil Hova does this all the time, starts off with this auction mechanism and then builds a game around it, and then, oh, wait a minute, if I remove that one thing that I started with, the game would actually improve. And you can, but game design is almost like a process of adding things, making decisions, and narrowing down the scope of what you're doing. Sometimes you have a double diamond where you're, what could be possible? Okay, let's narrow it down on this. Okay, what could be possible? Okay, that's, and then you kind of become more and more specific along the way. Once you've got a starting point, expand it in your mind. Do a bit of a brainstorm. What are the ramifications of this? How could it work? What are the rules? What would someone be doing on their turn? How would it finish? How would it start? Ponder these things. Now, I personally test it in my mind, and I would say that nowadays, having done it so much, I've got a better model of how people will behave. But earlier on, I would say that there was a lot more use in me making up a small number of cards, or physically, like, it could be just enough cards to play like 2 turns, and then I would pretend to be different people and move things around, because then I would be able to understand it in my mind. But now I can kind of keep track of a bit more stuff in my mind and a bit more ramifications. But then at least do a little bit of pondering what it might be like before you then make it. And finally, once you've made it, test it. Maybe you test it on your own. Maybe you pretend to be different people. And then after that, you have a game. Congratulations, you've done something. Well, maybe you don't have a game. Maybe you've just made enough to test a couple of turns, like I mentioned, and that's totally okay. Good on you still. You've done some good stuff. And so carry on and think to yourself, did it go well? What went well? What could be better? What could be changed? What could be improved? And then in your mind, ponder these things, test it, make it, test it in real life. And now maybe you're playing it yourself again, or maybe you're in the next iteration, you're now making it and then testing it with friends, or maybe you're testing it with strangers or whatever. And then eventually you will have something that is a nice game and amazing. Congratulations. And that's it. That's how you make a game. Just reiterating, and start off with anything and narrow down all the decisions. It is all about guidance along the way. It is very specific. I would say that obviously you can learn from other people. I definitely learned a lot from Mark Rosewater. I definitely learn a lot by listening to podcasts and being like, oh yes, my problem here is exactly like that. Well, not exactly, but kind of like that problem over there. And I can find you use similar solutions. And then at the end, if you want, you can get into the art, the production, the publishing. Let me go just catch up with the things. So, yes, Joanne says it sounds sort of like the process of writing a song. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of iteration, and when you're writing lyrics, I mean, in the same way that if you're writing lyrics, you could come up with the lyrics and then come up with the melody and then kind of try to fit it all together. and then if you did everything exactly, all of this, and then all of this, and then all of that, it doesn't quite work. So it has to be kind of a holistic whole. It has to be kind of like I'm doing a bit of this, and then a bit of that, and then, but you still have to have this guiding principle. Like when you're writing a song, maybe what I'm trying to really write is, okay, this song is going to be a silly song about Jude Dodd, and I will sing the song about Jude Dodd at the end if at least one person asks me. But this is going to be a silly song about Jude Dodd to make Jude smile, and it's going to be 100% true. And Joanne says that their method is writing down everything at first, then trimming it down. When I write songs, sometimes I just build it up, and then my mind's darting to different places, but everyone's mind works differently. So you could trim it down. You could say, okay, it's going to be that. Okay, well, that. And then, but you make more and more decisions. If it's a song you want others to sing with you, says Joanne, it's important to figure out something with a good hook, a catchy melody, yeah. And if it's a game that you want others to play, then again, you need a good hook. And hello, Delaney, it is lovely to see you. And Joanne says something to make it interesting, people, like people joining in on the song with drums. Hexie B says, I will say that watching Mark design Wardens? Which game are you talking about? And being so closely involved in development of the game taught me a lot about the design process and was valuable in helping me with my own stuff. And yes, absolutely. When I'm playtesting with other people, watching how other people playtest, watching how other people do that definitely improves my, Mark McKinnon of Wreck and Ruin fame, okay. And so yes, being involved in anything, doing your own stuff, and also when you're going to playtests and you see how other people change their games and how other people change things. XP says, songs just come out of me naturally, but I've been in bands most of my life. Anyway, so a few things to finish off with. Firstly, if you're making a game, cards are easy. The reason why Yogi is just a card game is because when I was originally making it, I wanted to make a game that I could put on Kickstarter. I wanted to make a game that I could produce easily. Cards are really easy and cheap, and I could print hundreds of these, print on demand if it's just in a bag. I think that if I printed with an actual box, I think 500 would cost about 1,500, 2,000, which is a lot of money for me at least. But if I'm doing print on demand, I can do 50 copies and in a bag, and then I can, even if it's 200 quid, I'm lucky enough that 200 quid, yeah, I would be annoyed if I never got any of it back, but it wouldn't be a life-changing amount of money. And so yes, cards are easy. Cards are cheap to make. Aim for 54 if you're doing cards. The other tip, design to your playtesting opportunities. So on Saturday, someone who says I struggle to get stuff designed, to which I responded, well, if you have one other person and you're playtesting with them, then you are able to make a playtest group with just the two of you. It started off like that in Waterloo when it was me, and I think originally it was Ben Neumann and David Brain. And nowadays, it's myself and David Brain and Ellie Dix. There will usually be at least two of the three of us. There have been a very occasional time, I think one time since we restarted, or 2 times since we restarted, that didn't properly get going. There was one of us, and that was a bit sad. But if you struggle to get people, try making a 2-player game. If you struggle to have a long game play tested, think about what's the shortest game you could make? Maybe you aren't maybe the notion of literally making the shortest game ever is like a bit too much for you, but could you make a 20-minute game? Could you make something that always plays in 20 minutes or less? In which case, it could be playtested a lot more easily. People at a board gaming night might be a lot more okay to playtest it, because at the pub, I mean, I've spoken to people at Haringey Board Gamer, and people agreed that yes, if it's a game that takes up the majority of the evening, given that a lot of them only play games once a week, that's not great for them. They really want to play something they're really looking forward to. But if it's a game where it's like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that's something that can potentially be squeezed in at the start. And then, so again, design to your playtesting opportunities. I'll say that kentandcleo.co.uk for blank cards is great if you're in the UK. Spielmaterial.de is great if you're in Europe. And if you're outside of Europe, if you look up your own places. But buy some blank cards or get paper, slip it in. If you're making cards for a game, you don't need to make all the components. You don't even need to make as many components as you need in one entire game. You just need as many components to get it played, and then get a couple of turns played and see what it's like. Print on demand is a fantastic thing. I don't recommend you jumping to print on demand when your game is half done. It's like, what's the point? For me, that just feels like too much of a cost. But hey, maybe you can afford it. Maybe you're like, yeah, I've got a small card game. I want to print on demand to keep it going. But remember, ultimately, it's all about the iteration. You need to be willing to iterate and iterate. But there will come a certain point where like, yeah, this game's basically done. I mean, this might change, I'm not going to lie. You know, there's always the possibility, but I don't know. I have no idea what I might change about it, honestly. Maybe I would redo all the creatures one day, because maybe for the second edition I'll redraw all the creatures and do them in a different color. But it feels like it's done. And again, I remind you that I printed 3,000 copies of In a Bind, and then I realized, oh wait, like in 2 different print runs, this one card should be tweaked, and then it was tweaked for Yogi. Like Wibble, it was tweaked. Alphabetical was tweaked. Fable was tweaked. Phrasal has stayed the same. Grabble has stayed the same. And so of my 5 games of the original L deck, only 2 of them have stayed exactly the same. So a game is never finished, but once it is finished enough, do some print on demand. And if you want to express yourself so much that you want to get it into shops, or like that's going to be quite hard, but you want to go to a convention and do that, or go to market or something, it's a possibility. Try 50 copies. I think it is genuinely a viable business model. And that is basically the end of my talk. So I'm going to catch up with the comments and then ask for any questions. So hello Jay Folsgard, it is lovely to see you. Can you print cards locally? Yes. Dice Sports. Rob, what's that surname? Oh, Rob Butler. Rob with 2 B's. If you need an introduction, let me know. Yes, cards are great. Hello Timmy, it is lovely to see you. I'm glad you approve, Jay Folsgard. If you can design a 5-second game, congratulations to you. And keep working on it. Rua suggests that the Heads or Tails is the shortest game ever. That might be true. Yeah, I guess we could get into a philosophical discussion about what it is, but my point wasn't to say I am going to try to make the shortest game ever out of everything that exists. Just I will try to make a shorter game so that other people can play it. And hello, Runa, it's lovely to see you. Joanne says, sometimes you have to rethink something. Like if people want to sing over Zoom and there's a delay, it's okay if it doesn't sound perfect, as long as it's fun. Yes, absolutely. And get away from this idea of everything has to be perfect, because that is just unattainable, and that doesn't work.
Words of wisdom there. Runa says, different color, there's no need for a redraw, that's work for Photoshop. You need to find the right button, but then it's 5 seconds per monster. No, it's going to be like a completely different color scheme. It's not just a shifting gradient. Like I want them completely redrawn. I'm just not happy with the creatures, but that's my eternal lack of happiness. But like currently they're all this kind of monotone reddish color scheme. I would like, to go back to what I did for some of the wee whimsical creatures where it's like blue and green and for the shadows, and then purples leading into pinks, leading into reds, leading into oranges and yellows, kind of all the colours of the rainbow. Does perfection exist? Does the perfect beach exist? It's in the eye of the beholder, and it's only going to be perfect for you for that one moment in time. Like what's perfect for me right now will be not perfect for me this afternoon. Like if I were to play a game right now, I would like a different game to what I would, obviously right now I'm kind of focused on talking to you, but you know what I mean. Runa says, I think it is good enough for a very wide public though, you sold out every time. And yeah, just wants me to show messages. I will check them and show them up. Lots of love, Runa. So let me go back to my usual things. And at this point, questionably quick questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's just the questionably quick questions section. So if you've got any questionably quick questions, then feel free to ask. Frankly, it doesn't matter how quick they are. Just ask your questions. If they are relating to this thing, then that's fine. If they are not at all related, then I'll answer them more quickly. And firstly, just remind everyone, brilliant thing, what's a little thing which is brilliant. Today's brilliant thing is going to be this raspberry lemonade. Now, there is a bit of sugar in there. I am generally trying and failing to avoid sugar. But it's a nice colour, it's kind of reddish. I do enjoy raspberries. And there's a good amount of vitamin C in there. So yeah, I think it's nice quenching my thirst. But I have to admit, my favourite drink is still going to be water. Although I do like smoothies. But let's get to the questionably quick questions. To me, just woke up. Oh, congratulations. Normally you're still not asleep, so congratulations on waking up early. Jess asks, if you could eat anything right now, what would you eat? I would, if it could be teleported right here, maybe a prawn karahi, maybe okra with spices and a tomato sauce. I'm going to go with that, maybe with prawns. I don't know how it tastes, the okra and the tomato sauce and the prawns, but I'm going to go with that. How many grains of sand are there in the world? More than I can count. If I were a board game, hello Josie, if I were a board game, what board game would I be? I would be, that's, so right now, I feel like I'd be something that surprises you, something with a bit of hidden information, something that's got some randomness, but pretty much it's open, like it's very visible, you can tell everything that's going on. I'm going to say maybe rando chess. I'm not sure that rando chess has ever been played, but this is a thought experiment by Richard Garfield. Imagine if someone were to play chess, but then at the end you roll a die, and on a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, the winner of chess wins the game, but on a 6, the loser of chess wins the game. So It's like, no, actually, that sounds annoying. I'm not an annoying person. I don't want to say I'm that game. I wouldn't even want to play random chess. I want to be something that people would actually interact with. Let me go with Coloretto. Like, people like to interact with it. It's quite approachable. It adapts to the people. And Coloretto, it's colourful. There is a lot of red, but there's also some other colours. And Coloretto, yeah, there you know what's coming. You've got a good sense, but there are occasionally some surprises. I'm sticking with Coloretto. Hiking is a brilliant thing, says Jess. And hello to Lil Ragazzo88. Thank you for jump. Oh wow. Lots of love to me. That does sound horrible. -5 degrees. And Jess just oh. So hello to, I guess that's Jess's friend. Timmy would have a bacon cheeseburger or some bulgogi if there was food. Jess would have beef lasagna with lots of courgettes and aubergine. By the way, I want to give a very quick review of Lidl Moussaka. It was terrible. It had no aubergines. I did not find any aubergines. I was seriously disappointed. I got one. I bought it. I put it in the oven after Dragonmeet. I was disappointed. Bulgogi is, well, there we go, Korean barbecue. It's a type of marinated beef. Fisher chest, nah, I'm sticking with Coloretto. And exactly, thumbs down for that. So that's that. And at this point, as always, I'm finishing up with asking over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. So, are you up to something fun and frivolous? Are you up to something serious? Is there something that you want to do? Is there something that you need to do? Let me know. Because, hey, I'm interested in you. Personally, I was really hoping that I'd get a delivery today. I was quite frustrated. People who are Facebook friends with me might have seen my thing where I said, my credit card got suspended, and then I had to say, yes, these are my payments, please carry on. But 2 of the 3 payments that they mentioned were inside the bank. When I went on Friday, yes, admittedly to a branch that I've never been to before, but I went to get fivers and change for Dragonmeet. And if that is suspicious activity, going to one of their own branches and taking out money from them, then what's going on? Anyway, because of that, I was meant to have stuff coming today, but I don't. Normally on Mondays, I do play games with Layla. We've been continuing that on Board Game Arena. We might play a game on Board Game Arena tonight, have a bit of a chat. I'm generally going to take it easy. I'm going to prepare for my 500th episode. That's basically what I'm going to focus on today. 500th episode, and then a wee bit about pondering some of the games that I'll maybe be bringing to this Friday's playtest. So, Timmy is gathering energy to get up. You can do it, Timmy. I believe in you. Come on. You can do what you want. It's you. You can do it, Timmy, 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 Timmy. But seriously, take it easy and lots of love. Exactly. Sue, keep fighting. Just says, I'm chilling, pre-second half of my shower. Wait, you do your shower in 2 halves? What's that all about? That's a bit odd. Josie is getting on with work, but also doing a course, but also has a board game idea to work on. Amazing. Well, maybe write a list so you don't forget it all. But that sounds fantastic. What's the board game idea? Do you want to type it up or do you want to keep it secret? Because, yeah, I hope that you get an opportunity to make it, to ponder it in your mind. And I hope that today's video has been somewhat useful to you. Hexy Beast says, I'm going to go back to waiting for my metal coins. Alex, oh yeah, making those new calendar puzzles. That sounds fantastic. And then meeting Rob. Oh, Whoa, in person, Rob Harper. That sounds fantastic. And Jess does shower in multiple halves just for me because my show is a distraction, apparently. Well, there you go. I guess that's quite a thing. Oh yes, and let me look at my messages because Jess wanted. That's a lot of images. So Jess was really keen on me showing everyone these pictures. So sure, let's flip through these images of Jess at the beach. Oh, meeting Rob Harper online. And meeting one day is probably enough for a while. Oh, and congratulations, Bones. That's fantastic. And yes, it sounds like it snows pretty much every day in Nova Scotia. There we go. Okay, so this is Jess. Let's see. This is a beach. Oh, that looks like good fun. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, don't know what that says, but it looks like a dried up cliff. That looks a bit scary and dangerous. Oh, that looks lovely. Look, check out that beautiful blue beach. And looks like some interesting branches going on. Yep, very nice water. Very nice water. It looks beautiful and warm. I am marginally envious. Looks like you're having great fun. And there we go. And so yes, that is all the stuff in Thailand and the fire dancing. So thank you for sharing that. Those are excellent things, and it is nice to see what you're up to, Jess. And I hope you have a lovely evening. For now, let's recap and wrap up before I finish up. So yes, remember, games. Commercial success is mainly about the marketing. I've just been trying to encourage you to do the design. Commercial success is a completely separate thing, which involves not only marketing, but also logistics and distribution and all that. There are skills and joys and uses, giving feedback in compassionate ways, taking feedback, negotiating conversations, really listening, building empathy, reading body language, learning patience, thinking creatively. All of these are skills that you can learn. Writing clearer instructions, understanding systems like positive and negative feedback loops, and giving yourself some confidence. There are joys to be had, a sense of purpose, achievements, connections, pride, and having a creative outlet. And sometimes it can just energize you and get you back into a passion. You can use it not just for making big production runs, but also for house ruling. Maybe make 1 or 2 copies as an expression of love, or as an expression of yourself. If you're somewhere with nothing to do, you can design some activities. Maybe it will give you some ideas for fun. Always start off with an idea, wherever that idea is. Just keep going. Think about what that means, how you start, how you end, how you test it in your mind, ponder it, then make it, then real life, and then keep going and iterate, and eventually have a game. Cards are easy, designed to your playtesting opportunities. Check out websites online, those are good for UK, prints on demand, and that is it. And yes, that is everything that I talked about today. So, for now, I am going to finish up, and we will maybe raid someone today, and if you are watching live on Twitch. Otherwise, yep, and Jess says, I can go to the beach when I get to Thailand. Jess will allow it. Well, I'm glad that the I mean, if you weren't to allow it, I feel like that would be a bit of an abusive relationship. So, yes, let's say no more about it. But I've recapped and wrapped up. If you want to check me out, I am Stuffed by Bez everywhere. I am on my streams. Let me check my calendar right now. I am going to actually delete the thing tomorrow. I am not going to be streaming again until episode 500. Now, normally I stream every day, but I am taking a 4-day break. But I will be back on Saturday, 10 a.m. UK time, and I will have many guests. I actually need to reach out and start planning and making a bit of a calendar. But that will be a 25-hour episode from 10 a.m. UK until 11 a.m. UK the next day. And possibly going on a bit longer. We will have talks. Everyone who comes along is encouraged to give a very short talk about something that they're interested in or passionate about and want to share with others, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion about it. And I'm hoping that we might have a bit of time for Giftable. I am thinking that, like I did the first time that I did a very long stream, I will probably do a short hour where I say I'm just cooking during this hour, and you'll watch me doing some sort of cooking. But yes, that is that. So for now, share, spread the word. Episode 500 is the next one. So thank you everyone who's been sticking around and being part of all of these. And please do join me on Saturday. Yes. Yes, Saturday. No pressure, says Jess, but you should watch for 25 hours. For now, lots of love. And the only thing left to say, into the Meatpoolverse. Let's go and raid into the Meatpoolverse, who are doing some sort of charity stream. Let's go over and give them a wee bit of support. Raid. Raid. There we go. Raid into the Meatpoolverse. So for now, bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, and maybe see you on Saturday. Bye bye, lots of love. Bye bye, Jay Foolsguard. Bye bye, Josie. Bye bye, Alex. Bye bye, everyone else. Have a wonderful day, and yes, please do copy the raid thing, help us make a splash. Bye bye. Bye bye.